Hi everyone, welcome back to With All Due Respect. Hi, I'm Amanda Thieb. I am speaking to Abby Langer today, who is a registered dietitian here in Toronto with me. Abby has been doing this for decades. She's one of the voices of reason in the dietary industry, and it makes me so happy every time she puts out an article, because it's always just so frank and forthright, but just busting a whole load of myths along the way. And that's what her game is. She wants to give really valid advice about nutrition to women, particularly, and especially through midlife. And she wants women to learn how to respect their body and to nourish their body without falling for diet fads. And in fact, debunking diet fads and nutrition myths is where Abby goes with her work, and it's so refreshing. I know you impact so many women's lives. And the other thing, before I get Abby to jump on, is that we've become firm friends. Abby lives down the road from me, which is really convenient. And we might also talk about Abby's love for Def Leppard.
Yeah.
Do you want to start there?
I love Def Leppard. That's all I have to say. I mean, come on.
Abby's got this picture of her with the band backstage, and she's going to put it in her newly renovated house in the toilet, I believe, right?
Yeah, in the powder room. Yeah, it's going to be the best.
Like, why Def Leppard out of all of the bands? Like, you know, I get John Bon Jovi, like John Bon yeah.
It's Bon Jovi, yeah, whatever. Def Leppard is so, first of all, I love the way they sound. They have such great harmony, and just like their music is so melodic. I just love it. And I've loved them since high school. And you know what? And they're all so cute, and I just love them. They're the best.
And when you had your baby, when you were in labor.
Yes. I knew I was having a C-section. So I made a playlist, and I knew because she was my second C-section, I knew how long it would be until they actually brought her out. And so I put a Def Leppard song at that point in the playlist, and my daughter Isabel was born to Armageddon It by Def Leppard.
I love it. Yay. Oh my God. So this says a lot about Abby. And so you can even make of that what you will. Okay, Abby, let's do this, right? So we became associated and started having Twitter conversations, and we read each other's books, and we found a great alignment with our messages, right? I love how irreverent and frank and no nonsense you are. I feel like I'm the same way, but I don't come with the added credentials that you do when it comes to the nutritional conversation. And so what made you decide that that's what you wanted to do? Because you've worked in clinical nutrition, you've helped women from a dietetics standpoint. So why now have you become the myth buster, essentially, which we love, by the way?
Thank you. You know what? I just thought I saw so many people getting swindled, and there's so much misinformation. And at some point I was just like, that's enough. I have to say something. I couldn't hold my fire anymore. That was right at the beginning of when I made my business. That's how it started, really, was that I started to write a blog, and this was 2012. And, my dad was a surgeon. So I come with that personality already intact, where I give zero fucks, and, this is how it is. Right. And in some ways that can be bad, but in this way, it's good because, I say what everybody else is thinking, or most people, that is. And that's how it started. I found that I had a lot to say and had expertise to throw behind it. And only I could say what I needed to say in that way. Right.
That's actually the reason why people respect you as well, because you don't just go in there ranting, even though I know deep down you just want to scream and go, for fuck's sake, I'm tired of this.
I do.
But it's just that as well as that, you'll go, and then here's why, and here's the data, and here's my expert opinion on it. So it always comes from a solid evidence-based background. But you must find that you walk a fine line sometimes, because you must get nervous when you call out some of these big names like Mark Hyman. I would be like, I can't stand the guy, but I know that when you write about him, it's part of you a little bit nervous about how he might react to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's some of it's not fun. Like I don't want to have to call these people out. I do call them out. I've been accused of like doing it just for drama and to get followers, but that's not the case. Like I don't like having that low level of anxiety that I get. I do definitely get anxious when I call somebody out, because you never know how they're going to react. And, I did get, I've gotten cease and desist letter and, from someone, and do you remember?
Yes, I do. I'm not, no
names.
Yeah.
But, it's just, it is scary. And even when I call out like companies like Beachbody or whatever, like I get hate mail, but I'm not really worried about that. I'm more worried about two things. First of all, that something I'm saying is wrong. I'm always worried about that I've gotten the facts wrong. And, and I've had to correct myself several times, which is fine. And I go in and I do it, and that's fine. But I'm also worried about that the company's going to take legal action against me. I do have a defamation lawyer on my staff, so I pass things through her. It just reminded me that I haven't paid her yet for my last installment. My God. But it's worth it, right? Because she protects me.
And we benefit from this expertise as well. And I've just found that I often reference your articles to people when they're just not sure of something. And so let's just then move this conversation into what we're seeing as the new brands, the new targeted market. And it's us, isn't it? It's these midlife women in menopause. And we know this is a massive industry. It's $1 billion industry. And so potentially, I always say the same thing over and over again, but potentially they see us and they see our insecurities and our vulnerability, and also they see the fact that potentially we might have a little bit more money than we did when we were in our 20s. And I really struggle with how these companies can promote these products that definitely don't have the evidence or the scientific backing behind them, and how they sleep at night. I don't know.
I have the same questions, and they'll say, if you ask them, they'll be like, well, this is the evidence, but they will show you evidence like a study that's done on animals or done in a lab dish on cells. And to the layperson, that's a study. Like these companies know that if they say, okay, well, we have research and here it is, the layperson doesn't know how to interpret that research. They don't know if that research is legitimate or that it's credible or accurate or any of that. And so they end up saying, oh, well, that's research, it must be good. But, so I'm the one who goes in there and actually says, okay, where are these studies? I want to look at them. Don't just send me the abstract, send me the whole thing. And I want to see the methodology and all of that. And more often than not, I mean, like 9.5 times out of 10, the study doesn't even prove anything. Just because something happened when you gave like 10 times the dose of whatever you're selling to a rabbit or a mouse doesn't mean that it's going to have the same effect in humans. And so it's very frustrating.
And some of the red flags that I see are things where we see what seem to be credible professionals like doctors using words and lingo that sounds valid, and it's hard to argue with if you don't have the education behind it, like the lay person, the general public. So that's like one of the red flags I see all the time with cherry-picked data. But then I also see what they do in a really clever way, and it's like talk about things that we know are actually valid, but then back it up with invalid solutions. And it's just such a quagmire when you get involved in that. So can you tell the listeners here just like a couple of red flags to look out for that might make this process easy? And then I want to talk about your program that you do, because you're literally educating women how to identify these red flags, right?
Yes. So, I mean, first off, the red flags, anyone who is promising a cure for a condition or disease that is incurable. Number one, like nobody's going to cure your PCOS. Nobody's going to cure your ADHD, all of that stuff. Like those things are not curable.
And cancer. They even go down the cancer road.
Oh yeah. That's like, don't even get me started. Like that makes me so angry. And, like if modern science hasn't figured it out, some MLM or quack doctor certainly hasn't either. So beware of that. Beware of any kind of health professional, and especially doctors who sell their own line of supplements. Like, no, do not go there. Don't go there, because often they try to sell you on a condition that you didn't know you have or had, and then they sell you the solution, right? And that's like the wellness industry in a nutshell. Right? That's what they do. And so beware of anyone who makes huge promises about weight loss. Like, listen, some company might be talking about thermogenic probiotics, but I can assure you that the science isn't there yet. And so like, if they're saying, well, you just have to take this pill and it melts your meno belly, which I just want to punch the wall when I hear that. It's just so disrespectful. Then obviously, like if it worked, nobody would have, extra fat around their gut, but it doesn't work. And, that's the litmus test. If it worked, first of all, it'd be regulated.
Well, we wouldn't have a problem, would we?
No, we wouldn't have a problem. The diet industry would cease to exist. But because these things don't work, of course, the diet industry is just trying to sell you on something else, something nice and shiny, that is going to end up in the trash in a couple of months because it's total bullshit.
Yeah, it completely is. We'll actually go back to your course a little bit further along the line, because I won't forget about that. But I do sort of like, so you're in perimenopause now, I believe, or maybe
I'm actually full menopause.
Yay! Welcome to the club, darling.
Thank you.
Is that a Def Leppard sign for those watching on YouTube? All right.
This is like the bullhorns, isn't it? This is like right on.
If you're listening on audio, like we're doing funny things with our hands, and I don't know what they mean. I'm so not cool. So you're in menopause, and you're open about it like I am, but you feel like you've had an easier ride than some women, don't you? But you still see some changes. And so can you sort of tell us a little bit about what perimenopause and menopause has been like for you?
Do you want me to talk about how hairy my face has gotten? Oh my God, what?
We were doing a live the other day, and somebody said, that's not the peaches I want. Not the peach fluff on my face. Yeah.
No, it's like really bad. I'm like, wait, what? I was in perimenopause for a really long time. Like, I think I went in, I'm 49 now. And I went into perimenopause in my early 40s. It started with like just skipping a period here and there. And then I would get hot flashes for a couple of weeks, and then they would go away for like a couple of months. And it was just like stop, start. And then, like it's just the last year I got my period like once, and then this past year it's been nothing since November of 2021. I mean, since November of 2020. So I went into menopause officially in 2021, and my symptoms are not a big deal. Like I've seen, of course, the fat redistribution. My body's shaped a bit differently. I have more fat around my middle now. Excuse me. I get tired, but I don't know if that's menopause related. I'm on hormones, and I mean, they seem to work for me. The reason why I went on hormones was because I was having hot flashes, which, I feel like they're so normal. We shouldn't medicalize them, but they were becoming quite uncomfortable for me. But also I wanted to protect my heart and my bones. And those are the two things that I was really concerned about. I mean, I've got enough issues. Like I don't want to mess with bone density, and I don't want to mess with heart disease. I have heart disease in my family. So I ended up going on hormones, and, I sleep really well when I take the progesterone. It's amazing. But
you also support everything you do from lifestyle perspective, as well as taking the hormones for the heart and the bones. You exercise, you do strength training, you try and manage your stresses, and you're very much like me in that message that it's one part of it. It's not the solution.
Yeah, you know, like nothing is the solution to no one thing. You know, I am active 4 times a week at least. I have a Peloton. I do a lot of weight training. I've actually shifted from doing mostly cardio to mostly weight training. And honestly, like I'm the kind of person, I'm lucky though, when I sneeze, I get a new muscle. Like I'm a really solid, my thighs are like crazy. But it's good. Like I'm happy about that. I used to be like, ew, look at my thighs, they're so big. But I
feel the same way. It's like you get strong and you start taking up space, and it's like, oh, my back feels bigger and that feels good. It's like
awesome. And it looks awesome, you know? And I feel so good. And weight training, like they have such great weight training. I'm not working with Peloton, but they have such great weight training classes, and I do it here. I have like all my weights, and it's just it's really fun for me. Like I catch myself smiling. You have to find something though that you love doing.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
and just encouraging movement most days is just really important as we age. Just
sometimes
overall,
it's hard.
Yeah, I know. And but if you want to follow Abby on Peloton, she's Aggressive Salad. I love that name. It's sort of like your personality as well, isn't it? I love it. Okay, listen, so both you and I talk about fat redistribution. I have found the same thing myself, and it's a bit of a shock, but once you understand that that's what happens, that's actually part of the change through menopause, is fat starts to lay in a different part of the body. It makes it a little bit easier to accept, right? But here's the thing, right? So I want to talk to you about how we navigate losing weight in menopause, because you're very clear in your message about calling out the diet industry, about the toxic message that's out there. But it should also be valid for a woman to want to lose weight without feeling guilty about it, because we've got actually two extremes. I mean, sometimes the extreme about undieting or like the health at every size movement is it's almost rejecting weight loss, but everyone should be allowed to choose. And so can you talk us through what you think is like a really sane approach to this, so that women feel like they have body acceptance, they really appreciate what their body's gone through, and they like where they are, but they can also choose to lose weight if that supports, you know, what they want on their health goals. Can you talk about that?
Sure. So first of all, you know, people sometimes call me an anti-dietitian. I don't align with that really. I align more with, you know, just the middle, the gray area. I do believe that while I don't promote diets, I do believe that it's okay to want to lose weight, and that not all intentional weight loss is bad. And so, but the first thing that I tell women is take a look at your relationship with food and your body, first of all, because I think that really speaks to how we make the choices around food and how we feel about ourselves. And, you know, clean up any of that stuff there. And I talk about it a little bit in my course, but it's mostly in my book, Good Food, Bad Diet, where I teach people, women and men, to really take care of their negative core beliefs around themselves and food and eating and how they look. Because no matter what you do to your diet, if all of that junk is underneath, all of those reasons, like, for example, believing that you're not good enough unless you weigh a certain amount, or, you know, believing that people are going to like you if you're fat, or gaining weight is the worst thing ever. Like, those are all negative core beliefs, and, you know, a lot of us have them, and taking care of them ensures that you have a relatively smooth sailing forward in terms of any dietary changes you want to make. And then
Oh, I just want to make a point about that before you do and then, because I do want to hear the and then. But and so I think it's really important now to normalize that conversation, because the people that think like that often then feel guilty for thinking like that. You know, they're like, I shouldn't be so down on myself, but I hate the way I look. And it's like this forever going round in a circle. I think that we can both admit that we feel like that at times, and it really is where the hard work happens, and you need to sort of stop and take stock and really just find the peace and the time to, you know, have different conversations with yourself. I sort of talk about it a little bit in my book too, and I know that's exhausting, and that's like a continuum. That's not an end goal. That's like something we always need to be like thinking about.
Of course. And when most of us have had these negative core beliefs since childhood. So like if you've been thinking the same way over and over again, this negative tape playing over and over again in your head for decades and decades, it's not going to go away like in 2 days. You have to identify where it's from and what it's saying, and then learn how to sort of shush it. And then, you know, after that, it's a matter of like figuring out what you're doing and what's not working for you. You know, many women our age are super busy, and they don't, you know, take the time to exercise, if they don't have the time to exercise, or, you know, they're relying on, you know, ultra processed food or whatever. I mean, and we all do it, right? I like a good Oreo every once in a while, and, you know, whatever. But it's like sometimes, you know, we're not eating enough vegetables. Sometimes we don't get enough protein. Like, so just look, it's not about like cutting things. I always say be a pencil, not an eraser. So add things to your diet, don't take them away. That's the difference between what I do and what other people do who say, well, you should lose weight. You know, it's like, I don't take things from people. I add things back into their diet. So they're happy, they're satisfied, they don't feel like they're being restricted. And it's all good. Like they feel free to like live their best lives.
And when you have this approach, this balanced approach, and essentially that's what we're talking about, having a balanced approach to eating without all of the associated emotions. It's trying to like deal with the emotions, which we know can sometimes take a long time, but with a balanced approach to food, it allows you to make better choices. It stops you being stuck in the mud. Like, because sometimes I know women that will, you know, not personally, but within my community, that will say things like, I don't come downstairs on an evening because I'll just snack. So I'd rather, you know, like or I won't go out for a family meal because it's it's Italian and it's pasta. And I mean, it's so sad to hear this is the narrative we heard like in the 80s and the 90s growing up. And let's like
still going.
Yeah, let's move on from that now. Let's like give women like the permission to just push that shit aside and start really looking at the best way that suits them. And often I don't agree with diets. I don't agree with women being told to eat particular things or remove food groups. I know you don't either, but often women are looking for absolute direction. They don't just want to be told, eat a balanced meal. Or look for it. And so I think that but then we fall into the meal plan or the rules. And so I think that I personally think it's really important to give guidance and education. And when you give guidance and education, that's where change can happen. Right. I feel the same with the menopause conversation too. I also feel with the menopause conversation that when you give guidance and support, they are able to make better choices.
Yeah, you know, I think there's too many rules. Like I see people doing like this like Gina Levy program, for example, in Toronto, and there's so many rules. Like, how are you going to live with those rules? Like, what is it doing to the rest of your life? Like, so you're going to lose weight, but what are you also losing? What are you losing? Like socially, emotionally, like those are really valid parts of our lives that you know, we have to consider, like, I don't give a shit like how much weight you've lost. You're not truly healthy unless you're emotionally healthy and physically healthy, right? But I think like that's the thing, is like we've been trained to be like, I have to be thin and I have to lose weight at any cost. I'm not even going to think about how, you know, my kids are watching me count out friggin' 10 almonds, or like, you know, I'm not eating in the morning, or, you know, Gina says that I can only have raw vegetables for a snack once a day. Like, that's awful to show your kids, first of all. And I know a lot of people who are on this program who have, and other programs, who have kids watching them. And, but also like, what if you want something else to eat? Do you then feel super guilty and you're like off plan? You know, it's just,
and then we
sad.
know what happens. We know what happens when people go off plan.
Right. Yeah. They feel like shit. And then they start eating.
Then they start eating. And it's human nature. That's exactly how we are. And
of course.
Yeah. And I mean, we get sent diets all the time. Like at the moment, the one that's really highlighted in my community is the Galveston diet. And I'm really upset about it. And I know you've done a review on it if anyone wants to watch it. And I have a couple of issues with it. And the main thing is it's led by an OBGYN. So it's led by a doctor. So there's the appeal to authority there, who doesn't have nutritional training, but I believe it's done some type of functional nutritional training since then. And her program is so low calorie and so mired in rules and restrictions. But it's
keto and intermittent fasting at the same time. Like, why do you want to do that? What are you going to do that forever? Because if you don't do it forever, you're going to gain the weight back.
And then in the meantime, her messages that she puts out there are all about supporting other women and I'm here for you. And it's just like, I find it just so disingenuous. And I just am like, someone's spending all of this money and they're not learning a thing. And that's always my comeback, is when you do something and you don't learn from it, then you've just wasted your money. And so this is why I really love your approach, because the whole idea is that you're trying to say to people, this is how your body processes food. These are the nutrients your body needs. These are the type of relationships you can have with food that are like healthy, that don't make you feel guilty about like eating when you're hungry. Like
you don't have to feel guilty about that. That's normal human behavior, is to eat when you feel hungry, and yet we're made to feel guilty about it.
And so the thing is
sad.
And the thing is with that message though, is like, you and I both know that if weight loss is the goal and you approach it from this perspective, it's going to take longer. Right. And it's going to take longer because we're learning lessons along the way, and we're actually practicing habits, and we're practicing new behaviors that are going to support like overall health and weight loss, if that's the goal long term. And that almost doesn't seem as appealing to someone who's desperate and vulnerable, who's getting promised they can drop 20 pounds in a month, right?
And they might drop a lot of weight on one of those other programs, but are they going to keep it off? Like, who cares? And you know, it's not only you're wasting time and money, you're further damaging your relationship with food in your body. So like, and you're confusing yourself more with all these rules, because I've had so many women are like, well, I'm doing keto, but then, you know, like I'm trying to get like some of these beach body, and it's like they're taking all these rules they're pulling rules from all the different diets they've done, and it's like this clusterfuck in their head, and they're just like, I don't know what to do anymore. I'm so confused. And that's awful.
And we both know that there isn't a diet that is specific for menopause.
Right.
There isn't, right? No, and so that when you see someone selling a menopause diet, you know that they've pulled that out of their arse, essentially. There's definitely some things we need to focus on, like eating more plants and looking at our protein sources, and potentially, as you say, not having too many of the fun carbs, but not restricting them at all, just being a bit more mindful. And it's the mindfulness over mindless eating, essentially, that we're trying to promote. And it's like I say, sometimes that's a hard buy-in for a lot of women. Talk about your cause, because if anyone's listening and they're interested in having like a better relationship with food and stuff, I love the group. It's great because I'm seeing women saying, oh my God, I saw this in my ads, this is a red flag. And you're actually educating women how to identify, right?
Yeah, that's part of the course too. So I came up with a course called Eating After 40. And is it eating? I like always forget if it's so. Eating over 40 or eating.
Don't worry,
40.
we'll link to it in the show notes.
I have menopause brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keep it real, Abby.
Anyways, it's for women who are over 40. And it is basically, you know, how our bodies change and what we can expect, and how to properly nourish yourself emotionally and physically. Talks about supplements, exercise, red flags, daily challenges. It's 5 modules, and it also includes a workbook and a recipe book and membership in a private Facebook group that is moderated by myself and by my assistant. And it's awesome. It's so fun, and it's really enlightening, I think, for women, because it's not like, here's your meal plan and drink your water and here's 10 almonds. And it's like, no, this is what you need to do. And, you know, maybe you need to readjust your expectations too around.
That's exactly it. Yeah. It's almost like those other type of diets out there are trying to get us to fight the change that we're going through, and we're saying exactly the opposite. Embrace the change, accept the change, work with it, and try and find, you know, the best method for you based on that. And I don't know why we can't. We're so resistant to this happening.
I know. It's like, you know, you're so need to control it, you know, like, gotta, like, you can't, I'm not going to go through menopause and not fit into my jeans. And, you know, one of the things I say in one of the first modules is I upsized my jeans like last year, and I feel amazing. Like I'm not squishing my stomach into these whatever size jeans that didn't fit me and haven't ever fit me, to be, you know, honest. And it's just, you know, like, what are we doing here? Like, to what end are we fighting all of this? Because, you know, it's going to take away so much from your life. Yes, it's totally fine to want to lose weight, but let's look at our expectations and see where maybe they might be a bit unrealistic. Maybe they're not, but, you know, and let's just focus on feeding ourselves and nourishing ourselves and not destroying our relationship with food in our bodies.
Yeah, it's like this whole picture approach to, you know, to how we can be the best versions of like what we want to be, I suppose, right? I hate that whole expression, but you know what I mean? Like, it's literally like just working with where we are. And I've found that to be enlightening for myself. When you stop resisting and start like just diving in, you know, going in for it, getting your feet dirty, it's just like, okay, right, here we are. And it doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but like, I like it. And I've noticed in your group that some women are having real light bulb moments. You know, they're like, I'm stuck on module 2 and I can't get past it because I've realized I need to spend a lot of time here.
Isn't that awesome?
Yeah, it is. It's really great. I love it.
And it's such a community. And in women, I've seen quite a few women say, you know, it's so nice that I'm not alone in this. Like, I can talk to you guys, and we're all going through the same thing, and it's fantastic. And it's so lovely.
And so as we come to an end, I'm going to throw a random question at you, which isn't random because I already had it planned. So how do you, what one piece of advice could you give to women in menopause who are really struggling like right now? And it can be either about body image perception or just struggling in life because they're challenged. Like, can you give them any sort of like words of wisdom?
I can. I can. And they are, when the end of your life comes, as it will for all of us, are you going to wish that you didn't focus so much on what you looked like? Are you going to be happy that you went out and lived your life? Because life is about experiences, and the beach doesn't give a shit about how you look. And you are capable. Do not hold yourself back. We get one go around in this world. Grab it by the balls and live your life. Do not let your weight, your body, any of that hold you back, because it's not worth it. Life is for living.
Life is for living, for sure. Thank you so much, Abby. Abby, where can we find you? If anybody wants to, everyone who's listening should know you, but where can we find you, Abby?
On Instagram at Langer Nutrition, on Facebook at Abby Langer Nutrition, and on Peloton at Aggressive Salad.
And of course, your website as well, where Abby
Langer Nutrition.
Abby Langer Nutrition, where all of the articles are. And I can guarantee you, if you've got a question about a diet, do Abby Langer in the diet name, and there's likely to be a review there, I would suspect. Thanks so much, Abby.
Most likely. You're welcome.
And thank you everyone for joining this week. See you next time. Bye. Take care.